We're back again, once again, with another NFL mock draft, but this time it's my mock draft. That's right, we're going to go take a look at the 2021 NFL draft. We're going to go through the first round. I'm going to give you my opinions, my picks, my takes. There'll be good takes, there'll be bad takes, but they're my takes, and I'm ready for the salt in the comments. Make sure that sucker is iodized, because I'm healthy. But, what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know so. Go ahead, become a bro and subscribe, and leave a thumbs up because it really helps the channel a lot. It helps the video a lot. If you click that thumbs up, I don't care if you enjoyed the video or if you think I'm an idiot. Just be, hey man, give me a thumbs up for effort, right? Oh, I'm just saying. I think effort should be accounted for, dude. I might not got that high athletic or physical upside, but I'm an effort player, man. Yeah, subscribe too. It'll be well worth your while. But yeah, if you haven't already, I'm on the Flick Chat app. That's right. It's basically sports Discord. You can find me at the Never Too Early Draft Group. So if you want to check that out, there's a link in the description below. I'm trying to get that sucker to 100. Might actually already be at 100 by the time I'm saying this now. But yeah, and also check me out on Twitch at Broshmo Gaming, man. I'm trying to get to 100 there. Might be 100 right now. I just have not looked. But yeah, I stream every Thursday when they're during Thursday Night Football. This week, no football, but I'm still streaming. I'm sure there's a college game on or something. But let's go ahead and let's get into the nitty-gritty. I know what you're here for. We're here for the NFL draft. That's right. No fancy production or template today, just because, you know, since I'm doing this Wednesday night, I wanted to get the current draft order, so I waited till the game for the game to be over. And yeah, doing all them templates would take a hot minute. So yeah, this is just a little easier on me production wise. But let's take a look. Jets. First pick. I think this is kind of obvious. I mean, it's Trevor Lawrence. I don't see anywhere else you go from there. I don't think anyone will dispute that pick. Here with the Jags, it's got to be Justin Fields, man. I mean, Jake Ledden ain't your guy. Gardner Minshew, honestly, I kind of felt like he was thrown to the wolves because there's not a lot of talent on this roster. There's a lot of youth and inexperience, so it was kind of felt like he was built to fail. So they're gonna go ahead, grab Justin Fields. He is definitely at least the second best quarterback in this draft, and honestly Zach Wilson might make a case for himself, but I'm gonna stick with Fields here. And then the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm pretty sure y'all already know Penei Sewell. It's gonna be him. I mean, they need to protect their franchise quarterback. Joe Burrow was phenomenal this season, despite a terrible offensive line, so they need to protect him. Penei Sewell is just a lot of people throw the word generational talent around, but he's a generational offensive tackle talent. The dude's amazing. Really didn't have to play this year, so he didn't. But yeah, the Bengals would love to get that. I think pretty much the first three picks everyone could kind of agree on. You know, that's kind of how it's going to go. Predictively, this is where things get much harder because the Cowboys, a lot of people like to put corner here, whether it's Patrick Surtain or Caleb Farley. And the problem I have with that is I don't see those guys yet as top 10 guys. And it might not happen till the combine, really. I really want to see. I think Surtain, he could, because currently I got Farley as my number one, and Surtain could usurp. I think that's the word I'm looking for. Farley, I just have him coming out and proving he ain't slow. He doesn't look necessarily slow on the field, but they want to know, hey, you're not running that 4.6 stuff, right? Because I think he's gonna be a low 4.5, high 4.4 guy when it's all said and done. And then everyone wants to make sure that Caleb Farley's just his elite athleticism. Just kind of checks out the length, the speed, because honestly, his play in 2019 was amazing, but compared to his 2018, which was not, you want to at least make sure the athletic tools are there. Those elite tools will probably get him into the top 10 easy, but I'm not comfortable with those guys here at 4. Honestly, the Cowboys, if I were at this pick, I'd probably maybe want to try to trade down. I can't do that. You can talk edge, but I think they're going to probably bring back Aldon Smith. I mean, I think they're fine for now at edge. And I'm telling you, there's going to be people that don't like this pick. And I don't care. But Dak Prescott, I just can't see the Cowboys keeping him, whether it's on a franchise tag or anything, because their cap space, their cap situation is atrocious. If they franchise tag or figure out some long-term deal with Dak, it's going to be at the price of the talent around him, the talent on the roster overall. Really, you're putting this team's going to be put in a situation where they're going to have to really draft well, hope they hit on a lot of their picks, and then be unable to re-sign most of them. So I think, honestly, if this were me, I would go quarterback here, and I would go Zach Wilson, man. The guy's he's got NFL arm talent. The guy has got incredible arm talent. The guy can make special throws. He's displayed that this season. You'd be like, well, it's not against top tier competition. Yeah, but he's still making freaking bonkers throws. Like it's like it still takes talent to make this out to the sideline, throw a little zip on that. Like, and this kid's arm strength is very. I don't think people are underrated. I was about to say it's underrated, but there was something going around Twitter where he literally threw like 60 yards off his back foot, and it was just pretty. But I'm going with Zach Wilson. It is what it is. This puts, for me, the Chargers are kind of in a weird predicament. I would like to get offensive line here, but I'm not. With Cosme would be solid. I think you're reaching at 5. I prefer to try to trade down then. To me, Cosme and Darisaw, I wouldn't really think about them till maybe pick 10, pick 11. We'll try to trade back to around there. Corner, again, it's still too, like, for me, you gotta imagine Hayward's gonna be better next season. You got Chris Harris for one more year, so you gotta imagine he's better. Michael Davis actually played relatively well, so you gotta think the secondary will be a little better. So I know a lot of people aren't gonna like, I keep saying not a lot of people are gonna like this pick, but I mean, it is what it is. I'm gonna kind of go edge. I'm gonna go with Kwity Paye. Melvin Ingram's on the way out. People might want to be like, well, they got, what is it, Nwosu? But I honestly just see the cat as a rotation player. Like, he's getting okay pressure, but it's not on a large sample size. I think he's a rotation player at best. Kwity Paye has some scary athleticism, and if anything, I'm drafting talent at this point. But if I were the Chargers, I think trading down might be a finer option. Eagles, let's speed this sucker up a little bit. Their linebacking core sucks. I went with Micah Parsons. I think it's pretty easy. There are parts. Well, actually, no, man. I'm hoping Davion Taylor maybe develops, but he hasn't really seen the field much. Sean Bradley, I think he's just going to be a passing down, like a passing situation type of linebacker. So they grab a guy that, I mean, we know what he is. He's an athletic freak. He's got an insane pass rush win rate in college. The dude's phenomenal. Now, this is also an interesting position here with the Carolina Panthers, where I don't completely feel sold to go corner here. Like linebacker, I feel like, I mean, you could make a case for Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, but for me, I would probably maybe be a little tempted, but honestly, they've been giving that cat, what's his name, Stanley Oliver? I think he's out of the kid out of Florida International. He's been getting a little, they've been playing him a little bit more the last couple of weeks. Stanley Thomas Oliver, there we go. But they've been playing him a little bit more. Like he's had like I think like 40 some snaps in the last 2 games, and he's actually done pretty well. Granted, they have Corn Elder and Rasul Douglas as free agents this season, but you got to imagine that they're hoping Dante Jackson plays better next year. They hope Troy Pride Jr. maybe develops. There's some sort of progression in year 2. So you could look linebacker here. I mean, yeah, Joker here, he is pretty tempting, but man, I'm just in love with the idea of, hey, you could also talk about quarterback, but I don't know, Trey Lance, he's not really fallen on my list, but I always saw him as a top 15 guy. So a top 10 guy for me is kind of, I feel like we're stretching it at that point. But I'm in love with like Kyle Pitts. I saw this. I forgot whose mock draft had it, but I loved it. Ian Thomas, he hasn't been really able to emerge there, and I mean, now you have just a load of weapons. You'd be like, oh, that's kind of a luxury pick. It's a good pick. They spent all their draft picks in 2020 on defense. And Roy looks good. Derek Brown looks good. Bravion Roy looks good. Tier Gross Matos looks good. And I think Jeremy Chin looks great. So I think they could address the offense here. There's no one on the offensive line I'd want to pick here, right? And like in the top 10. So I'm going with Pitts, man. He's just tremendous. And then the Washington football team. The Washington team that shall not be named. Like Voldemort up in here. But I just talked about Trey Lance. How I'm not comfortable with him as a top 10 guy because I still think he's a developmental prospect, which you would think this is the perfect situation with Alex Smith. But I think honestly, if they want, they can maybe grab a guy in the second round, maybe trade back into the late first round if they want to grab a quarterback. Instead, I think I would just grab some more talent. You'd be like, okay, well, offensive line. Their offensive line's actually playing reasonably well this season. I think the defense has played very well. They got some good young parts on that defense. So I'm going to go actually with wide receiver. I'm going to take Jamar Chase to go to the other side. I just love the idea of Chase and Terry McLaurin on the same squad. That's a scary duo. On to who do we got? The Detroit Football Lions. It's really hard to predict what they may do because, okay, now they're going to have a new coach, a new GM, but they have the problem with Matthew Stafford's contract. Like, it's going to be a lot of dead money if they try to move him. So I mean, you're at least stuck with, I think, Stafford for another year or 2. So you don't necessarily have to draft your quarterback here. And I don't think they will. I think they have a bigger need at wide receiver because their top 3 wide receivers are all pending free agents: Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones, and Danny Amendola. So I think we're going to go with wide receiver. And I'm actually going to go... this was kind of tough between Waddle, Smith, and Bateman, but I'm going to go with Smith because I really, really like his upside. If you could put a little meat on them bones, I could buy a little bit more into him retaining that beautiful release off the line, that physicality at the catch point. So I'm going to go with Smith, man. The dude's been the best receiver in college football. And then the Atlanta Falcons. You could think edge here because this team does not get pressure. If your name ain't Grady Jarrett, then you ain't getting to the quarterback on this squad. But the corner definitely needs to be addressed here. So I'm gonna go with Caleb Farley. Like I said, he's higher on my board than Surtain currently, because I think Surtain, the only way he like they're neck and neck, and the only way he jumps Farley for me is because, I mean, you're right now picking traits and tools over production. I need to see Surtain's combine and be like, oh wow, man, you shouldn't really dictate your decision just by the combine. I mean, like I said, they're so close. I just need that little bit just to like, just a little reassurance, man. Just a little reassurance. So we're going Farley here. And then the Miami Dolphins. I know the cat like busted his knee towards ACL or something. I can't remember. But Jalen Waddle, man, I've been loving this pick for the Dolphins. I've been mocking this almost in all my mocks. I just like the idea of reuniting Tua. I mean, can you imagine that? I mean, oh, it feels so good. And they don't really have a slot guy there. So I kind of like the idea of Parker on the outside, which I'm not too positive Parker is going to be a true number one receiver, but he's on the outside. You got Waddle on the slot, and then some combination of Grant and Preston Williams on the other side. So just you need to grab weapons for your quarterback. So we're grabbing Waddle, and then we have the Broncos, and for me, I was thinking about maybe Gregory Rousseau here. But Malik Reed, he's actually been solid the last few games, man. He's like only 24, 25, something like that. And kid's starting to develop very, very well. They will get Von Miller back. Will he be on the team though? We don't know. But in 2021. But I think secondary is the biggest issue. Callahan, at his best this season, Bryce Callahan has been in the slot. So they really need to address the outside receiver. Boye is okay, but I mean, he's really just a journeyman at this point. So I love Patrick Surtain. I think he's a great fit for the Broncos defensive scheme. On to the Chicago Bears. And I mean, hey, they've been losing enough games. They could finally get into that quarterback range. So we're going to go Trey Lance here. You might be like, oh no, another quarterback with wheels and a cannon. Yeah, but oh man, I'm just like, am I mocking the next Mitch Trubisky to the Chicago Bears? I don't know. I like Lance as a prospect. The guy, he honestly, he might need a year to develop. But I mean, that's what you got Nick Foles for, right? What you got Nick Foles for? And then we have the Minnesota Vikings, and this pick was fairly tough. I thought about Christian Barmore here. But then, I mean, if you're thinking about it, they get Michael Pierce back to kind of play that nose, and that will really help guys like Amron Watts and James Lynch. So I was like, okay, maybe not necessarily Barmore. I constantly love the Wyatt Davis pick here, but Davis hasn't been dominant like he was in 2019. And honestly, I think Elijah Vera Tucker has kind of jumped him, and I don't think Vera Tucker is good for this scheme. So now what are we doing here? It was tough, but I was taking a look, and I mean, they're going to be losing some significant free agents. They're not going to be able to sign them. They're kind of in a bad cap situation. So I think they're going to end up getting rid of Riley Reef, and you might be like, well, okay. So what, you're going to draft a tackle? I mean, we have Ezra Cleveland. Yeah, but they haven't really played him. They've only played him at right guard? Do they see him as a left tackle? They might see him as their next tackle. But I'm going to go with Christian Darrisaw here, man. He's been very impressive. I think he's actually really good for the scheme here. So we're going to go Darrisaw. And then the New England Patriots. Man, I tried. I was like, okay, maybe Christian Barmore here would kind of make sense, or maybe a receiver with some like good after the catch ability. So I was thinking of guys like Bateman, maybe Rondale Moore. But I mean, dude, Cam Newton, four touchdown passes, 9 interceptions. Like, they do need to address the quarterback position. And while I think Kyle Trask currently for me is more maybe a late first pick or late first round pick, he's got prototypical arm strength. He's got prototypical quarter like size. Like, he's gonna get overdrafted. And I mean, he's looked extremely good this year. He's looked a lot more comfortable in his second year as a starter for Florida. So I'm gonna go with him here. A lot of y'all, I know there's some guys that are like, hey, Mac Jones, dude, he's a first round talent. I disagree, dude. I think his lack of arm strength puts him in this day 2 range. Can I say? And then the 49ers, they miss out on replacing Jimmy G, but Jimmy G's been banged up, man. I think you give him a pass on the season. That interior, they will lose, what's his name? It's like Brunkskill or something like that. Their right tackle, right guard, excuse me. But I mean, this is actually a pretty good defensive interior class, so they could probably wait on that. I think corner, they definitely need to address, get a nice young corner that they can develop behind Sherman, and if they bring back Verrett. And I mean, they have Mosley too there, kind of like, I mean, they give him snaps. He ain't playing well, but they're giving him snaps. So I'm going to pick the cat with all the upside in the world. His play this season has been extremely solid. JC Horn, man. The guy has just been very good this year. He finally displayed ball skills in his last 2 to 3 games. Then he opted out because, I mean, I guess that's what you do now. You opt out. But I think this is good value here. The cornerback position is a very, very valuable position. Might be the most valuable position on defense. So, got to address it. And, I mean, dude, if you're the Raiders here, your pass rush sucks. You could go Max Crosby all you want, but, I mean, he's only one man, and he can't get it done by himself. And Gregory Rousseau, dude's here. This is great value. Honestly, could go in the top 10, but it's the draft. Guys fall. So we're going to go with a Rousseau. And then we have the Baltimore Ravens, and they somehow got to choose between signing Yannick Ngakoue or Matt Judon, or maybe they won't be able to re-sign either of them. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to snag, because, I mean, Jalen Ferguson, the dude been putting on, he was big coming into the league, but he's now hovering around that 280 range, so there might be a guy that they more put around the line. So I'm going to go with Joseph Asai. He's been very impressive. He has experience dropping back into coverage as well. So, yeah, man, the guy's got a good bend, decent athleticism. I'm cool with that. Now, the New York Football Giants, I would love to get an edge here, and I think you can go edge here. But I think there's a guy that ranks really high on my board that's still on the board. I love Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and I know I'm butchering the name, but it is what it is. I'm going to call him Joker. The Joker is phenomenal, dude. He's got ridiculous speed, ridiculous instincts. I mean, you saw it in the Clemson game where he basically met, I think it was either Amari Rogers or Travis Etienne in the backfield. Basically picked off a toss, took it to the house. Like, the dude is great. Blake Martinez, he's fine and all, but he's really just a tackling machine. That's it. He doesn't really provide much in coverage. I think Joker here does. I like the pick for Joe Judge's defense, so we're gonna go with that there. And then the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off here, man. I know some people don't like Tyson Campbell, but I think his traits are elite. His athleticism is elite. He has been penalized 4 times this season, but that's because Georgia doesn't know how to teach. They don't know how to coach their corners, man. They teach them how to play this rough, keep your hands on the receiver 20-25 yards down the field type of coverage. I hate it, but there's no doubt for him, like, he's one of the better press man corners in this class, especially with that elite athleticism. You could put on some weight, because I think he's like 185, but I know a lot of people like to point out, well, he got burnt by Alabama. Literally, that's one game. Even if you take the Florida game into account, where he allowed 2 touchdowns, like, all right, in the 2 games, he allowed 8 receptions on 12 targets for 288 yards and 3 touchdowns. How about the other 8 games this year? Allowed 14 receptions on 24 targets for 99 yards. 3 pass breakups and an interception. He's been phenomenal, man. Everyone's struggling against Alabama, and everyone's been struggling against Kyle Pitts. I'm not saying those are exceptions, but I'm saying you just got to kind of like, it's a different type of standard, you know? But I like him. I think he actually fits the defense quite well. So we're going to go with him there. Oh, good. I already picked him. I was like, where'd he go? Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think they're in an interesting position where you're in the last year of Tom Brady. So I think you have to draft guys that can make immediate impacts now. So like I'm looking for guys that could be maybe immediate starters. And the first one that popped to mind was two guys actually, Samuel Cosmi and Elijah Vera Tucker. I ended up going with Tucker here because I think he could be an upgrade over Alex Kappa, who's actually played pretty well this year. But the versatility that Vera Tucker brings, he could slide to right tackle, because I imagine Wirfs will usurp Donovan Smith eventually. So I went with Vera Tucker here just because I think it can make the biggest immediate impact. The Miami Dolphins, man, and I was kind of hoping maybe linebacker here, but because I just imagined we wouldn't be able to get a solid offensive lineman or an offensive tackle. But Samuel Cosmi's still on the board. I can't really pass that up. Whether if they want to move Austin Jackson to the right side, or they could keep him on the left, because I mean Cosmi, he has experience on the right side as well. They could slide Robert Hunt into guard, which I think he should be anyway. It's just you can't pass on the value there. This guy, he could have gone as early as what, probably like earliest pick like 12, 13. You could even make a case at 11. It just happened to go this way, and I have him ranked over Darsaw, but I just think Darsaw fits Minnesota's scheme a bit more, in my opinion. On to the Indianapolis Colts. I was thinking maybe corner here because Xavier Rhodes is a free agent. You could be like, well, I just imagine they're going to bring back Phillip Rivers. They're going to bring Phillip Rivers back. And they have Jacob Eason there. I imagine they're developing him, so they don't have to go reach on like Mac Jones. That's right, I said reach. Like I said, dude, I think the dude's like a second, third round talent. I think you go receiver here. I really like Rashad Bateman for this pick. He's going to be an outside receiver. He can slip into the slot. He's not necessarily as athletic as some of the other guys in this class, but the guy attacks the inner. He really does it all, and he's got very strong hands. He's a very he improved very much in 2019 as a route runner, and he in 2020 he just showed even more improvement. The guy's very, very good. I think he'd be a good complement with Michael Pittman there, and then you kind of already have your speed there with T.Y. Hilton if they decide to keep him. And I mean, like I said, with Bateman, he has experience in the slot if you want to slip him in there and have Hilton on the outside. So I think it just gives your offense a little bit more weapons, and I mean, I think Phillip Rivers would love a guy like Bateman. We got the Cleveland Browns. You could go linebacker here. I was tempted, but I really want to go edge because I don't think Olivier Vernon will be here after this season. I've been saying this a lot. Kevin Stefanski, he's gonna look for the athleticness of a Danielle Hunter for Myles Garrett, because Myles Garrett is kind of like the Everson Griffin, man. A big power rusher. So he's going to look for a guy with great athleticism, great bend. And this guy flying up a lot of people's boards. Azeez Ojulari. I know I'm butchering that, so my apologies. Only problem I have with him, he's about 240. But I mean, honestly, like if you look at guys like Yannick Ngakoue, he's like 246. Like if he could get to that 250 space, that's nice. That's great, but I don't think it'll hurt him. He's just been utterly dominant this season for Georgia, and they don't really teach their defensive linemen to rush the passer. You know, they're more of a run-contained squad. So he's been extremely impressive for me this year. All right, so this is tremendous like value here for me. For the Jags, like you'd be like, okay, well, you could grab offensive line, maybe a corner. I don't think you can really pass on Christian Barmore anymore. I don't want to say I criticized like when I did my mock to mock series, mock the mock. I didn't criticize. I was just shocked to see Christian Barmore slide down those mocks. And here I am now with him being drafted at 25. And I guess I kind of get it, you know, because defensive interior, really, it's one of the least valuable positions on defense compared to corner, compared to pass rusher, you know. Like honestly, he could have went as early as where was I talking about, with Minnesota at 14, but I ended up going with tackle, which extremely important. Then New England could have been his next spot, but I ended up going quarterback, the most important position on the field, on the team. The Las Vegas Raiders, I could have went there, but Gregory Rousseau, he was higher on my board, you know, so I went with my board. And like, yeah, it's just like corner, pass rush. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is a guy I was really high on, so I got him higher. And yeah, it just ended up falling that way. I think he would be a good complement to Devin Hamilton, he shined a little bit this year for the Jags, but overall that whole defense is kind of struggling. But I mean, man, like they need to get a new defensive coordinator in town. Like there's nothing creative about what the Jags do on defense. It's like basically a 4-man rush with the occasional extra pass rusher. And I mean occasional. Like I haven't looked it up. I won't be surprised if they're one of the fewest like blitzing teams in the league. Like I almost all the time they're only rushing 4. It doesn't do Josh Allen any favors. So I mean, if they're gonna end up keep doing that, then grab some pass rushers for that line. And Christian Barmore is a phenomenal pass rusher, my top interior player. The Jets, I really would have loved to got a receiver, but I just can't pass on just the Clemson connection of Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence. There we go. They're typically every year, at least one running back goes in the first round. Etienne's going to be that back, and oh man, like it's going to be interesting to see where he goes, but I think that's just, they got Frank Gore, man. I mean, Etienne, you don't even have to necessarily keep him in the backfield. Just get the ball in his hands, whether if you're lining him up on the slot. Like, you could be very creative with them. And I imagine it won't be Adam Gase, so they'll have a very creative offensive mind now in New York. I imagine if you keep Adam Gase, then oh my gosh, dude, what are y'all doing, Jets? For the Tennessee Titans, they need to get pass rush, man. Really, like, they struggle mightily with getting consistent pressure on the quarterback, in my opinion. So I really think Carlos Basham Jr. is a really, really good scheme fit, especially if they can't bring back Javion Clowney. But even if they do, I mean, Basham, he's like what? I think he's at 280 now, but he's a guy you could put on the line with hand in his dirt. You can have him as you can have him out wider. The guy's phenomenal. He's got a very impressive bull rush move. It's just he's been a bit inconsistent. That's kind of been his biggest gripe throughout his career, you know, but still phenomenal explosiveness for his size and strength. And then the Buffalo Bills, I would have loved to mock Wyatt Davis here, but like I said, Davis, he's kind of not on a down year. He's not playing bad, just not as dominant as I expected. And I think some team's gonna fall in love with this guy's size and skill set that he's gonna go in the first round. I know he's somewhere here. Zaven Collins, dude, out of Tulsa. This guy's like 260. He's solid in coverage. He constantly around the ball. He's solid as a pass rusher. I think like the Bills, you could get real creative. This could be like a Lorenzo Alexander just with 15 more pounds on him, you know? And it's not like they have an okay linebacking core, but they've really struggled this season. So I don't mind bringing in more talent and competition to the position. So on to the Green Bay Packers, and this was tough. Could have went with a receiver here, but it is a very deep receiving class. So you could go receiver later, maybe corner. You could say, oh, they need help stopping the run. So maybe a linebacker or defensive interior. You could just get good. If you want a run stopper, you get good run stoppers on day 3. You don't have to do that in the first round. So I went with talent, man, because the Packers, they're going to have to make some cuts. They're currently scheduled to be in the negative this offseason in terms of cap space. So they're going to have to make some cuts. I think Billy Turner and Ricky Wagner are going to be a part of those cuts. And dude, Alex Leatherwood, man, he's just sitting here. I think he's going to end up sliding down. He might even fall out of the first round just because he's just not, he doesn't really, I was going to say he's not dominant, but he doesn't have dominant snaps, you know? He's been consistent. He's a very good pass blocker. Still a bit penalties. He's got him down a little bit this year, but that is something to worry about. But I mean, there's nothing, he doesn't have great explosiveness. No, he's just really reliable. That was a big reason I think why he came back, was because compared to guys like Jedrick Wills, Tristan Wirfs, Mekhi Becton, those guys just extremely athletic and powerful and explosive, and he's just not that. So I could definitely see him being now maybe in the late first, maybe even early second. But I think this is a good get here for the Pack. And then the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to go edge, man. This is another team that doesn't get great pressure unless they're bringing extra pressure. So I know they signed Frank Clark to, long-term deal, but let's go ahead and we're going to grab a guy that's very similar to Frank Clark. Where's he at? Brenton Cox Jr. Now, Frank Clark, he's not a great athlete. Brenton Cox, he doesn't got the greatest athletic upside. The difference is this dude's bend is amazing. He gets to the quarterback. He's been getting tremendous pressure this year in the SEC, the toughest conference in college football. So I think, hey, man, if they like their Frank Clark, man, let's bring in a guy with a similar skill set, but I think better pass rush and upside. As for the Saints, if it's true that they're going to move Chauncey Gardner Johnson to safety to Malcolm Jenkins role, then let's get a corner, man. Let's get a corner that can play the inside and the outside. I'm a big fan of Asante Samuel Jr. I think he's a tremendous fit here. I think, honestly, he could fit in any defense, but I think his experience on the inside and the outside and like high level production and play, I think warrants him first round pick, man. Then again, I could say that about a lot of guys. This one was kind of tough. I floated between a few guys at this point. Like Rashawn Slater would be interesting, but everyone and their mom are mocking Rashawn Slater in the first round. And I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I had him high. He was a dark horse. Like, I think I had him as high as he was like my 20th prospect in my original top 100 prospects. And then he decided to opt out. So I was like, okay, he's probably definitely going to be a day 2. There's nothing really he could do to improve his stock, And now everyone and their mom are like, I saw a mock that had him like 5th overall. Like, no, that's not going to happen. It's unrealistic, man. Not for a guy that they think maybe can't stick a tackle. And I love him. I think he should stick a tackle. But yeah, that's a potential here. And but I mean, I think maybe Wyatt Davis is more realistic, because then maybe they can move Matt Fleer back to right tackle. They're probably, once Bonner comes back, is it Bonner or Banner? I think it's Banner. The USC cat comes back next year, they'll probably just keep him at right tackle. So then, okay, maybe not offensive line. What do we do? Maybe running back? No, you don't do running back in the first round. It's a luxury pick. Do we go with the heir apparent to Ben Roethlisberger? I don't think you necessarily have to right now. So let's take a look at the defense. Corner, I mean, Joe Hayden's getting up there in years. Yeah, but Cameron Sutton's been playing extremely well. And I think they're kind of grooming him for the outside. I know he's seen a lot of like plays in safety and in the slot, but that's a cat. Watch out, man. He's pretty good. I think what they can do is they could move Terrell Edmonds a lot closer to the box, kind of play that oh my goodness, who was the Mark Barron, that Mark Barron role, a linebacker next to Devin Bush, because all intents and purposes, okay, Vince Williams, he's a solid run stopper, but that's a dime a dozen in the NFL. You can upgrade from those. So if we're going to move Terrell Edmonds, who's actually, I think, pretty solid in coverage when he's playing it underneath, then, okay, let's grab a safety to replace him. And I think the guy that's going to end up being the top safety picked in this class is Trevon Moehrig. I think Javon Holland, he's got great production, man, but a lot of teams aren't going to like his lack of probably his physical upside, you know, his lack of physicality, you would say. And then, I mean, the safety position in general is very devalued, which is a real shame. Andre Sisco, I think, could be a definite first rounder, but the injury, if he's not able to partake in the combine, I don't see him really being able to improve his stock. Paris Ford to me is only maybe a box safety slot only, and that's not something you draft in the first round. So Moehrig, he's a guy that can play deep. He can play in the box. He's been phenomenal this season. So yeah, let's go with our boy Moehrig, and that's the draft. So I think honestly, if we're gonna do a quick little summary of it, because I know how y'all like summaries, and this video already going long. I think it's kind of overall consensus. This is what the first three picks are. I think this pick, a lot of people will be doing corner, but there's not a corner worth taking fourth overall, in my opinion, in this draft. I think the Kwity Paye pick is going to be very divisive, because they're going to be like, well, we should go corner or offensive line. It's just, Kwity Paye's higher on my board, and he's got better upside than the Wusu, who like I said, I think is a rotation player. Parsons is fine. Kyle Pitts might be a little debatable, but I mean, come on, man. How you gonna get? I don't think no team should be mad if they get Kyle Pitts. Maybe Washington. Look at this, Washington. This stupid nonsense. I think people will be like, well, we should get a quarterback. I think you're fine. You don't have to go after one. And honestly, if they do want a quarterback, they could trade up. I'm not comfortable selecting anyone outside of Lawrence, Fields, or Wilson in the top 10. Devontae Smith. Who knows what Detroit's going to be doing. Farley, I think, makes sense. Waddle makes sense. Surtain makes sense. Trey Lance, I think, would have made sense. And then I made the Mitch Trubisky joke, so I think a lot of Bears fans are going to hate on that. Darius Hall, I could see a lot of people not liking that, because it's not a sexy pick, but I think it's a good pick. Kyle Trask, makes sense. I mean, I think, honestly, a lot of people really hate Tyson Campbell as a prospect, so I could see some people complaining about that. I don't get it. But honestly, I think for the most part, man, this is a solid draft class. So I guess that's the end. I guess that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing, and as always, till next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.